Anti-government protests across Indonesia are showing no signs of letting up. The situation has, however, not stopped the country's president from flying to China to attend the military parade in Beijing. Violence in Indonesia erupted last week when police ran over and killed a motorcycle taxi driver at a rally against the privileges enjoyed by politicians. Protesters are demanding the release of up to 3,500 people who are said to have been detained by authorities. Rights groups say they're also concerned for another 20 people who are missing.
A flower as a sign of reconciliation after a week of deadly protests. Thousands of online motorcycle taxi drivers gathered at Indonesia's national monument in the heart of Jakarta to pay their respects to a fellow driver who was killed in a collision with a riot police vehicle on August 28th.
We were very angry because the violence cost the life of our friend. Now we hope that in the future authorities will handle demonstrations without violence.
Soldiers and police are stationed across Indonesia after the president ordered authorities to stand firm against violent unrest. Special units patrol the streets looking for unauthorized protests. Many groups, including students, have decided to protest more peacefully in recent days.
Parliament works too much for their parties. They should cut back on that. Stop putting the parties first and focus on the people instead. That's where real policy change will happen. If not, we'll likely be back here.
Students say their demands for reform remain unanswered. The president has revoked perks for some lawmakers. But this MP from the largest opposition party says it's unclear how those promises will take shape.
The president's statements are fine, but what people need now are concrete actions. If it's just statements and more security forces, it only silences those who want to speak out.
Although the economy is not in a bad shape overall, recent layoffs and higher taxes have fueled public dissatisfaction. For the government, the taxi drivers' gathering was seen as a positive moment, creating images that helped calm tensions.
The question, of course, is how genuinely spontaneous has this gathering really been? One can't help but be reminded of an election campaign where in Indonesia supporters are invited into the capital to show their backing in public.
Just as during elections, free lunchboxes were also handed out to drivers at the end of this event. For now, keeping the streets calm remains the government's #1 priority as it nears the end of its first year in office.
That report by Georg Matthes, our Asia Pacific Bureau Chief, who's joining us from Jakarta right now. Good to see you, Georg. So first of all, bring us up to date. What is the situation today?
I'd say still a developing situation. We still have a number of protests, announced protests, taking place throughout Indonesia today, including Jakarta. And then, for instance, when I came to the office this morning, there were still a number of military vehicles parked here, packed with soldiers. So military presence still very strong in the capital, particularly in the morning, in the late hours of the evening.
And there's been a lot of arrests, haven't there? Thousands of people have been arrested across the country. Tell us some more about the growing calls for their release.
Yes, that is a big concern, particularly for civil society organizations who already have set an ultimatum for the government to release all the people that have been detained. Now, if we take a closer look at those detainees, or particularly of the kind of people that are in this group, it's quite interesting to see that civil society organizations have pointed out that there's 20 people missing where we don't know where they are. They're suspected to be arrested. And there's another interesting number here. 38 people in Jakarta alone have been arrested on the basis of being suspect of allegedly inciting violent protests. And that is a big concern, particularly for the government. And here's an interesting aspect where everybody agrees on, is that people in Indonesia feel that a number of the violent part of the protest has been orchestrated, has been set up, if you want. And now, of course, who is behind that is unclear. And one will have to see how this can be resolved. But local media have made some research and have found evidence that not all of the protests, and particularly the violent part of the protests, has been genuine.
Let's talk about the president for a moment. After initially cancelling his trip to China because of the unrest at home, we're now hearing that he has gone ahead with the visit after all. How is that going down?
Yes, that's right. He went for basically 1 day to China, also to meet with the Chinese president. I think a clear indication how important the partner China really is for Indonesia, particularly at a time when the government is in need of money. Already now, China is the biggest creditor for the president's free lunch program, a free meal program for school children, where China has put in a lot of money, and the government needs more money. And China is one of the biggest investors in this country. And that is also, of course, a reason why the president has taken that decision.
OK. And the situation in general, Georg, where do you see things going from here?
I think overall one has to say that the economic potential, for instance, of Indonesia is enormous. There's huge natural resources. There's a population of 280 million people, a massive market. But if you look at that potential and the reality, for instance, the gap between rich and poor is enormous. And some people say it's widening. And that is a discrepancy that the government needs to address. So in the future, I think a lot will depend on how serious the government takes these protests, how seriously they will try and bring up some real reforms that improve the lives of the people here.
We'll have to leave it there, but thanks so much for that update. Georg Matthes, our Asia-Pacific Bureau Chief. Thank you.